Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to a Brew with CWRU. We are live here on campus at the Jolly Scholar. My name is Chris Driver, and I work with the Alumni Association here at Case Western Reserve University. I'd like to start off with a few housekeeping items. Please note that that this event is being recorded, and you've been muted by default. If you have a drink or some CWRU swag, grab it, because we're going to do a little toast and a quick picture with the group just before we get started. So please turn on your cameras. We'd love to see your smiling faces. And of course, if you have masks on like all of us, we'd love to see your masked face just as well. If you have any questions during the event, please be sure to send those in using the chat function. My colleague, Katie O'Malley, and I will be monitoring the chat, and we'll do our best to get to all of your questions. We'll conclude our event tonight with some final Q&As, if there are any left at that time. And then to thank you for being with us this evening, we have a few prizes to give away. We have 5 Jolly Scholar t-shirts and 1 grand prize winner that'll be randomly selected. Before we got started tonight, Les and Matt picked some numbers randomly. And for those that are in attendance, we'll get in contact with you and send those out, and those will be announced. For those of you who ordered beer, we'll begin tonight with a beer tasting. If you've ordered beer on or after October 2nd, we'll get your beer out to you as soon as we can. And we will send you a copy of this virtual tasting so that you can still experience just like everybody else. So before we begin, let's take a quick picture. And if I could borrow one of these from you there, Les.
Huh?
If I grab one of those from you, we'll grab these. And Les, if you want to hold your beer up there. And everyone will give a quick smile. Katie, if you could take a picture for us.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. We're good.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, a quick toast to all of our alumni joining from around the country and around the world. We really appreciate you joining us this evening and joining us for the Virtual Homecoming 2020. Now, I'd like to introduce our hosts. First, we have a Cleveland celebrity and beer vendor extraordinaire, Les, the beer guy Flake. Les? And we also have the owner of the Jolly Scholar, Matt Vann.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Cleveland.
Hello, hello.
So to kick us off, Les is going to do his call for us that he does at all of the stadiums here around Cleveland. So I'm going to give you a quick countdown if you want to turn down your volume just a little bit, because it's a little intense. So Les, I'm going to give you a countdown here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Not the mailman! Not the tax man! The beer guy! Hey!
Awesome.
Hello, everyone out there. Hello.
Thank you so much, Les. Awesome. Well, I'll let you to it, and we've got Matt here, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the Jolly Scholar, and then, but actually, first we'll start off with the beer tasting, and so you can tell us a little bit about the beer that we've got here and the beer that everyone has at home.
Perfect.
Take it away.
First of all, to Chris, Katie, and all of your teams, thank you. And for everybody who signed up for this, we wish we could see you in person. But we'll drink with you virtually tonight, and hopefully that'll be acceptable. So first of all, the beer that we've sent to you today is Les's beer, aptly named Cold Beer Here. It is a all Ohio made beer, all Ohio grain, all Ohio hops, and it says I'm muted. I think I'm good. All Ohio grain, all Ohio hops, and then so it's an all Ohio beer. And the thought behind this beer was we wanted to make it the quintessential everyday beer. We wanted to make it a lawnmower beer. We wanted to make it a ballpark beer. We wanted to make it, a dinner time beer. So just the beer that is great for every day, every second, every time. Maybe not at work. but the everyday beer. It's an American lager. American lagers were brought over in the 19th century from German immigrants. And it's very similar in style to German lager, to German lagers, but this one again using all American ingredients and specifically using all local ingredients. Rice is in this beer. We got a little bit of corn in this beer, no corn syrup, and then just some Pilsner malt, and then just basic Saaz hops for anybody that's out there who gets into that aspect of it. But the beer should be crisp. It should be refreshing. It should clip off in the back of your throat when you finish the sip. So you should be experiencing that. Maybe very, very, very light fruit tones on it, but it should just be a nice, easy drinking beer. So if you haven't already, and if you have, you get 5 bonus gold stars. But if you haven't already, crack a can. Let's pour a little bit in. I got started a little bit earlier than you guys. So you'll see in color, it should be pale straw color, should be really clear. It should be effervescent. You should see bubbles rising from it. The beers that you got were packaged. I want to say they were packaged about 2.5 weeks ago. So that's, pretty fresh stuff there. So I'm going to take my mask down here and we'll take a sip of it. So for everybody who's hasn't had a sip, enjoy it from the Jolly Scholar. Here we go. Let's taste the beer. All right. So as you taste it, it's one of those beers that, for a lot of people, that are drinking a lot of different beers out there, we don't want this beer to be, delicious but obnoxious. We want this to be delicious and everyday. So hopefully you're getting a little bit of maybe slightly like straw. You get the pale malt, the Pilsner malt coming through there, and then the hops. Again, the interesting piece to this beer is that it is literally every component of it has been sourced here within 30 miles. West Branch Malts makes the malts. They're in Medina, Ohio. Then the backup supplemental malt is from a place called House Malts, which literally is about 4-minute drive from the university here. So some local maltsters in Cleveland, Ohio, if you can imagine, which is pretty exciting stuff. The hops are from Barn Talk Hops here right outside of Cleveland, and they're Sterling hops with a little bit of Cascade. So again, for anybody who's big on beer and big on hops, or home brewers, or just aficionados that kind of get into the details of the beer, some Saaz hops. So some classic German style hops that are being grown here locally. So this beer is about 3 parts volume on the carbonation. So it should be bubbly. It should be like I said, crisp, and it should be flavorful in that regard. It is a lager, so it takes from grain to glass, and what we mean by that is, from the day we brew it to the day we put it in the can and it's ready to go in the can, it's right around 35 days. Lagers compared to yeast are a little bit more temperamental. They ferment at lower temperatures, take a little bit more time. But they got to scrub. They got to scrub out a lot of these off flavors and drive them off. So that's why they take the time.
A quick question that came in
Yes.
From Josh Williams. He was asking what kind of yeast do you use in this one?
So for this beer specifically, we're just using a Sefel. It's just a dry yeast. It's very consistent. So we'll start with the dry yeast to pitch, and then from each batch, we'll just keep a slurry going and roll it over from one batch to the next. We're typically getting right now out of that yeast, and what we like about that yeast is it is very clean. It's very subtle. It's got very light phenols to it. So it's throwing off very light fruit flavors that I think help round it out, and help kind of round out some of the grain bill to it. But it's a safe ale, not 05. It's a safe ale lager yeast though. And then from there, we just carry it over generation to generation. We're able to get about 4, and if everything's right and the vitality of the yeast is good, which of course here with all the science-driven aspects of the university, it all goes under microscope and to see if it can go to the 5th generation. But we're typically getting about 5 rounds out of this yeast. So one pitch will produce us about 5 beers before we dead end it and start brand new. But it's exciting. It's exciting that one, we've got a beer here locally with local ingredients that is kind of exceeding on a world-class standard. So again, hopefully you're tasting it with me and you're enjoying it. I'll go enjoy it one more time here. And again, as it kind of warms up a little bit, it still holds down. Like I said, there is some flaked maize in it, which is corn, but it doesn't taste corny like a cream ale would. The Pilsner malt drives it through and kind of gives it, the classic Pilsen taste. And then the local, Saaz hops, I think, drive it. So hopefully you're enjoying it. I don't know if you found it out there in the stores near you. We kind of had an exciting time getting it out there. Oh, yeah. and pushing it through and been getting some really, really good feedback on it. Like I said, this is a everyday beer. So hopefully you're tasting the same thing. I'd hate to liken it to Budweiser or what have you. But style wise, it is an American, it is an American lager. With that being said, the color with an American lager, as we're going through the tasting notes here, if you got a glass, you might get some condensation on it. Don't know how much we can see there, but it's clear. It should be no cloud to it. You shouldn't see any particles in it. The SRM, which is kind of like how colors are kind of rated on beer, like I said, should be like a straw, pale color. Shouldn't be dark, shouldn't be hazy, should be bright and effervescent. So, yeah, hopefully you're drinking along with me here. Hopefully you're on your first one because we got a long ways to go here, people. But that is our cold beer here, American lager, inspired by Les the Beer Guy Flake, made with all Ohio ingredients, which is exciting, for reducing a lot of the things such as, carbon footprint. We're not trucking grain in from Minnesota, and we're not trucking, hops in from Oregon, and we're, and we're still able to, meet an industry standard and exceed an industry standard for a great, crisp, light beer, and also keeping some money here in Northeast Ohio and helping kind of making things a little bit more sustainable, which is exciting. For the beer. So if you see it in the stores, go buy it. If you see Les out, let him know, he'll sign it for you.
Of course.
But enjoy the beer. Again, this should be in everybody's refrigerator. We know you want to drink the other stuff too. We know you want to drink hazy IPAs and pastry stouts and dunkels and anything and everything. And we support that, and we'd love to sell you a few of those too. But this needs to be your everyday beer in the refrigerator. Les, is that right?
Yes, it'll be everyday beer, man. Refreshing. It's good beer. I love it myself, personally.
So, yeah, so that's as far as beer tasting goes and notes on that. Not sure if there's any other questions out there, but if not, it's a lager. It's refreshing. It's lawnmower. It's Browns tomorrow, 27-23. That's our 5-star lock of the week. So
51-10, 51-10.
We did have another question for Matt. Capi had asked, which stores carry the beer?
Yeah.
And Katie O'Malley asked, is it available year-round?
Yes. So kind of some exciting news. We have taken two. We purchased two 60-barrel fermenters. So to equate that, a 60-barrel fermenter can make 120 kegs of beer in a batch. To equate that to cans, I'd have to get my math together here, but I want to say that that's a lot of cans of beer to try to keep up with demand. So we put this beer out, and in 2 days it sold out, and in 3 weeks it's sold through, which means it's not on the shelves any longer. And about 90% of the stores that ordered it, we're seeing stuff on Facebook right now, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
People saying that they found beer out in the wild. They've actually found it, which is kind of cool. So,
it's been awesome, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah. So it's it's out there, and that's kind of what we're trying to do to meet demand. But the stores that it's in, Heinen's, which is going to be tough to find in Heinen's now. Those are pretty much sold through. Giant Eagles, and then on our Facebook page, we put a post out about 2 weeks ago that listed every C-store, gas station, convenience store that it's in. And I want to say it was something like a little over like 80 or 100 places before we sold out of all the beer that took the cases. If you do live downtown by chance, Constantino's, Andrew took a giant order from us. So again, if you live down there, go wear him out, take all his beer, and I'm sure he won't be mad at you for that.
Yeah.
But beyond this, I think you're going to see in a lot more stores. So everybody's reordered. We haven't had one store not put an order in for a reorder. So the goal is and Les and I, have had deep conversations about this, is to make this Cleveland's everyday beer. And, we know it'll take a little bit of time, but Dortmunder, we're coming for you.
That's right. That's right, man.
So take a few more sips and enjoy the beer. I'll go silent here for about 15, 20 seconds. I won't blabber on you.
Good beer, man.
I lied. It's bright. I agree with Les. 5110 Browns.
5110 Browns, baby.
Stamp it. That's the 5-star lock of the week.
You heard the score now. Bet that over tomorrow, man.
So to keep the show moving, want to tell you a little bit about us, about me and the Scholar, and then tell you a little bit how I met Les, and I'd like for Les to kind of tell you a little bit about himself and how he became who he is. But for the Scholar, for those that know us, that have been here, thank you. My wife and kids, thank you, and you guys have been great to us, and we appreciate you. Over the years, but it's great to see faces new and past that have come through and seen the changes that we've made and kind of seen us keep growing. But a quick background to us, for maybe those that didn't know, we've been here now for a little over 15 years, which goes way too quick. We started off with 4 beer taps. We started off with no liquor, and we started off, and the only people that would write us insurance was Lloyd of London, which is just insane. And I can't even begin to tell you 15 years ago how expensive that was to put a bar on a college campus and actually get insurance. But since then, we went from 4 beer taps to no liquor to adding, the bar. And then we went from the bar to adding 24, beer taps. And then we went from adding 24 beer taps to one day we had the bright idea, fingers crossed, and just, kind of, throwing Hail Marys. We approached the Dick Jameson specifically and the administration and said, hey, what if we were, you know, thinking beyond the possible here and put a brewery on campus? And I thought that was going to get, you know, absolute crickets from the school's administration, and they loved the idea. They loved the idea. So we set off on it about 4.5 years ago, and it was a big project with older buildings and stuff like that. We, you know, got creative and started building little, you know, cutouts through tunnels and to get, you know, big tanks into small buildings and small spaces, and then added, you know, the brewery component. And since then, it has just been, you know, it's just gone gangbuster. You know, the response from the outside community that's not case affiliated has just gone through the roof. If you go on Untapped, which is, you know, like Yelp for beer reviews, I believe we are the 3rd highest rated brewery in Northeast Ohio. And the 2nd highest rated brewery is a place called Moe's Tavern, and we make all the beer for Moe's. So pretty high regard there, and I think we're doing a you know a good job, and we appreciate everybody helping us kind of move it through. So now the brewery piece is going, and the Scholar's going, and so the next thing was we you know started to grow and look to go outside for some distribution. We're a little bit limited in space here as to how big we can get as far as distribution. So we went out and we found a partner to lease us some tank space. So we leased some tank space, and so now we're you know, for our first beer that we put in cans, which is Les's beer, cold beer here, available in all fine retailers near you. So we contacted Sibling Revelry and said, hey, you know, what do you think? They've been following us. They've seen us. We started this thing, you know, in April. Actually, to get back one step, we had a tap takeover at a bar in downtown Cleveland, and the beer rep from Six City, a guy named Mark Norris, I was telling him, hey, we got this beer. It's called Cold Beer. It's this everyday beer. And there's this guy named Les Flake. He works at all the stadiums. You know, this beer was inspired by him. You know, the quintessential everyday drinker, sports beer. You know, we named it Cold Beer here. It's part of his, you know, his tag when he screams at the ballpark. And Mark said, I know him. I know him really well. So I was like, well, how well do you know him? And this was literally like on a Thursday night or something like that. And he's like, I know him really well. Like, if we leave this place right now, we can find him.
Yeah.
So we left, and it didn't take us long, and we caught Les down at City Tap. Thank you, City Tap, for supporting us, cans and draft.
Oh yeah.
So Les was sitting there, and I walked up, and we had cold beer on tap there at the time. This is before cans or before Les and I even knew each other. And I walked up, and I said, you know, I know you don't know me, but, you know, what are you drinking? And he said, I'm drinking my beer. And I was like, well, how do you know this is your beer? He's like, this has got to be my beer. He's like, you know, this is, it's what I say. And I said, you know, so I said, you know, that's exactly what it is. It was inspired by you. So we started talking about it, and then we literally that night, I want to say it was November.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, here's the thought, right? You know, so I kind of laid out, you know, my thoughts to it and so on and so forth. And Les said, if you're serious, let's do it. And that was the plan. So that was the plan. We were going to launch it in March, and then March, COVID hits. And so we table everything. You know, what do you do? Everybody's trying to figure out what the new plan is. So I took 2 weeks off. You know, we just shut everything down. We took 2 weeks off to kind of let the dust settle a little bit and see where everything was going to go, what everything was going to be. And, you know, I told Les this, I got the best 2 weeks sleep of my life. And I just felt like I woke up just re-energized by everything. And I contacted Les and said, what if we go and deliver door to door? You know, the beer guy, you know, can't be at the ballpark. We can't, you know, be at the stadiums, but the beer guy is going to bring it to the house. And this was something that, I would say, to pay it a compliment, was hastily created. You we've got this little canner at the bar that can do 1 can every 15 seconds, which is not fast. It's fast, in terms of if you want to take a beer home. It's not fast in terms of, moving a whole lot of beer. And we created this website quickly, and we built it quickly, and we put it out there to everybody, Facebook, Instagram, Case Community, and we just blasted it out. And what we thought might last and just get us down the road for 2 weeks until we could just maybe get 2 weeks further down the road and figure out what was next, has now been going strong for about 6 months, and has now turned into, hey, we're out of capacity. We need bigger capacity. It's now turned into can. It's now turned into distribution, and it's now turned into, a real viable brand. So that kind of in a nutshell is how Les and I met, the thought behind the beer, how the beer was imagined, this insane ride. And if you get a chance after this, if you go on YouTube and type in the beer guys here,
You'll see.
We made a music video.
Yeah.
100% 5-star lock of the week. Les thought I was out of my mind.
Yeah. Let's do a music video. I was like, well, you're nuts. Get out of here, man.
So what's amazing and funny about it is, so the first beer delivery Les made, when we did the door-to-door delivery, there was a girl, Jessica Imes, and she shot a video of Les delivering it to her door. And it was the first delivery, and it was really special because, everything was just perfect. Les was perfect. The camera shot was perfect. The audio, with all things being considered, was as good as it could be. And so we took the audio, and I went to a site, and I just bought this beat, and I had no idea about music or how to produce anything. And if you can imagine a 43-year-old father of 2 with a mortgage and a business, amongst COVID, I thought I was going to teach myself how to produce a song. So I took it, I cleaned up Les's audio the best I could to make it fit. And what would have taken any normal person in the industry probably an hour, I suspect I put about 35 or 40 hours into it. But it was a labor, it was passion. I wanted to make it go. So if you get a chance, go look up, the beer guys here, music video. And again, that was shot with two cameras, a microphone and a beer guy and a Jolly Scholar.
Yeah.
In an empty downtown Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the story about the Jolly Scholar, the beer, how we launched to kind of get the brand started. Now we're to the shelves, music videos, world record, which they're still verifying, that we've set up for most. I don't even forget what the world record is now. Too many cold beers. But a world record attempt, and now we're ready for distribution, and we're taking tanks that are 10 times the size of what we have downstairs because we just could not fill capacity or fill the need here. So here we are.
So Matt, I want to just jump in real quick. We've got a few comments in the chat that I wanted to share with you.
Sure.
David Walker said that he'd love for you to send some down to Columbus for some distribution down there. So if you're looking to expand, he's definitely looking to buy, and we'll get the word out. Janice Gerda shared that she thought it's very creative to do the delivery. She's watched the delivery exploits on Facebook and loved every minute of it. And Katie O'Malley says that Les delivered beer to her house for her fiance's birthday back in March. And Katie also shared the YouTube video, the beer guy video, in the chat. So if you've not seen it,
thank you.
You can check it out there. But I'd love to hear a little bit from Les. Les, what was your experience in all of this?
Actually, this has been awesome. This has been awesome. I want to thank Mac for looking for me down at City Tap. I want to thank everyone else that brought beer from me. From not only did we start doing this in March, sorry for the home deliveries. I want to thank you all. This has been phenomenal. I never thought this is like wow. It's like a dream come true. And I also want to thank people who bought beer from retail places, all the bars and retail stores also. So this has been kind of cool. You know, so I've been doing vending for almost 43 years. I started at the old stadium selling footlongs, 1974. And I've been doing that since then. Only job I ever had. But it's not the only job. But when you work a job, and I love this job, it's not really been work all these years. It's more like, it's been like a passion. It's been more fun. So I have been very, very fortunate to find something I love to do. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the Indians, you got to watch for foul balls. Hey, cracker. Oh, duck. Yeah. Plenty. Yeah. Thank God I've never been hit. I had other vendors get hit before. But you got to watch the foul balls because you're working behind, so you don't see the batter, you don't see the batter at all. You hear a crack in the back, you hear a crack. Oh, okay. Whew. Good.
So while you're not able to watch most of the games, have you been at any really iconic games that hold a special place in your heart, whether it's
my God, there's so
World
many.
Series games, playoff games?
Oh, I hate to see the Cubs lose. I hate to see the Cubs win. The 2016 was special. Of course, the Cavaliers, man. 2016 also. And the Monsters, same year, 2016. That was a special year, 2016 in Cleveland, except for the Indians. I wanted to win, but that was unfortunate we lost. But, but it's nothing like being at when you work at any event, sporting event, and you're lucky to be there, and especially when they're winning, there's nothing like being at a Browns game. And why I love the Indians, I love the Cavs. The Browns games are special because they're number one. There's only so many games, and like if tomorrow morning, it's like I would have been sleeping and not get ready for tomorrow's game, normally. But it's like it's so many good memories here. The Cavs championship parade downtown, that was amazing. It's like everywhere. It was awesome.
So what is it made you apply to do this in the first place?
Well, I got the mailman taxman thing when my mailman, and I got a tax notice in the mail. I didn't have to pay anything. I just got some letter from my RTA, and I got the mailman. I'm like, maybe I should put that together and start doing that because every vendor across the country, if he's good, he's got a slang or a promotion, or he's got a gimmick, or he want to promote himself for sales because we work on commission. So you want to make as much money as you can. So when I found I got the mailman tax, I was like, I started doing that. And then naturally I never knew how loud I was to people who used to talk, boy, you're loud, you're across the ballpark. Then people hear you on the radio all the time. It's like in the old days, Tom Hamilton and Herb Score, they hear me all the time on the radio. So
you mentioned other multiple stadiums. Is there any holy grail of places that if you didn't sell here in Cleveland, is there one specific stadium you want to sell at?
Wrigley.
Maybe sell at all of them?
Wrigley.
Good?
Yeah, it's beautiful. You've been to Wrigley before? You love baseball, you've been to Wrigley. It's baseball there. In this field also, I've worked the Kentucky Derby, I worked Super Bowl over Detroit, I worked the World Series. This has been a great living doing this job right here. I'm very, very fortunate. It's hard work, though. I gotta admit that. Not easy work. It's not easy work. Because you carry in 2 tons. You carry when it's hot outside and you want to Friday has to get cold, so you carry bar water. You have maybe 45 pounds of ice in your tub, and you're walking up steps all the time.
Wow.
It's hard work, but it's worthwhile work.
So do you ever get recognized as you're walking around town?
It's like I've been at funerals. I've been at. It's funny to go to a funeral and say, hey, he's here. You're at a funeral, man. He said, he can't hear me. I said, no, I know he can't hear you, but other people can't hear you. The beer guy's here at a funeral. It's a crazy at a funeral. So it's like, that was kind of odd. But I guess, people enthusiasm takes away. But remember where I go, if it's on the RTA or the bus line or the library or the bank or everywhere. Wedding photos. I go walking down Playhouse Square one time. Hey, it's him. Hey, get in my wedding photo. Get in my wedding photo. Please, the beer guy's here. Get in my wedding photo. Crazy.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's like, and I'm very, very, like I said, it's like, I love it. It's like, I love
That's so
it.
great.
It's like, I think I'm very, very grateful. I like what I do. And I think my enthusiasm pays off in this. Because I like what I do.
Definitely. And so obviously, cold beer here is your number one beer.
Oh, yeah.
What's number two for you?
Well, I don't want to give a shout out to them.
Say it. Tell them.
It was Great Lakes. Durmonger Gold, but we're coming for you, baby. We're coming for you, Great Lakes. The beer guys coming for you. You hear me, Great Lakes? We're coming for you. 5 years. That's it.
Well, so Les, I want to get one more question in before we get to our tour. What keeps you busy outside of work, and what like hobbies? Is there a Mrs. Beer guy?
I love sports and I love fantasy football right now, so I'm thinking about who I want to serve my team tomorrow.
Okay.
So, and I like reading. I love movies. With COVID, you can't do anything now. I used to love going to the Playhouse first, seeing shows. COVID took all that away now.
That certainly makes it tough. You have a favorite movie that you've seen just recently?
Huh? In movies recently? I like Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption. Okay. Yeah, that's a great one.
Great movie. One of my favorite. I like comedies. It depends what it is. It's what I'm in the mood for sometimes. I'm a Law and Order. I can watch Law and Order all day long. Me and Law and Order, hey, I'm happy, man. Me and Law and Order, everyone watches all they got Netflix, all the other new shows. I got Law and Order, man. Well, that's all I know. That's looking for the cause. I'm a Law and Order guy.
Awesome.
I want to thank Matt for finding me out again. It's like, this has been awesome. And everyone else out there, it's like, this has been like, ooh, wow. Awesome.
Very cool. We're so excited that you're able to join us, Les. Thank you so much. And we're so happy that you're able to join us.
Oh, no. I like doing things like this. It's like, it's kind of cool. So all you Case graduates and Case students and alumni, thank you again. Thanks for tuning in the show, and thanks for having me here on the show also. I really, really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Les. Matt, we'll toss it back to you if you'd like to take us on our tour.
Yeah, and before we do that, I just want to, thank Les for, not thumbing me away and telling me to get lost and understanding kind of the thought and the vision. For anybody who's ever been to the Jolly Scholar, you see all the, kind of wacky, insane, thoughts and promotions and events that we do to kind of keep the energy on campus. And sometimes when you go off campus and you kind of, put that kind of enthusiasm out to people, they just look at you sideways. And he got it right from the start. But again, for Les, being, displaced from what he's done for the last 43 years, I just want to, again, say thank you, buddy, for, hanging in there and helping us kind of get this thing started, from the ground up. I mean, again, if we just go out there and sell beer, door to door, we sell a little bit of beer, but when he lent his name to it and jumped on and put his heart and enthusiasm in it, it insanely just exceeded any of our wildest expectations. We thought this was something that might go 2 to 4 weeks and 6 months, and we paused it just because we had to get restarted, and we had to, I don't know if you can see everything in the background, but fiberglass everywhere, and still we're not allowing seating. Hopefully next week we're going to start to allow some seating in here. I think we're talking capacity of 58, still no beer. And then maybe into November, 2 beers, maximum 1 hour stay. But again, thanks to Les for hanging in there. And
no big deal.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And again, it's something that we wouldn't have got to this point, without him. And so for those who have ordered beer online, who would love to see Les, come up your front lawn and wake your neighbors up. If you got neighbors you don't like, if they got, barking dogs or, or stuff in their front yard, Les will square them up for you, real quick. Just let us know. So we're looking to turn that back on. We've been getting email after email saying, hey, when is this going to start happening again? I think the time is right. We're probably going to launch it Monday and start delivery again for next Saturday. But we had to get open and get ready to go and kind of get, to the swing of things and without, all of our staff all the way back. We're getting close. We just kind of had to get that piece up and running first. And now we're going to get back to beer delivery. And our second batch of beer will be hitting stores probably as soon as October 13th. And this batch is going to be 5 times bigger than the first batch. So, we're excited to see how that goes. So with that being said, again, Les, thank you, buddy.
And Les, we did have someone from the chat. Sarah said that she wanted to thank you personally as well. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Sarah.
And if you want, let's take a little tour and we'll show you where we're at and what we're doing, and we'll go from there. And Chris, you just yell at me if I'm walking too fast or too sideways.
Thank you.
So for anybody who's been here we go. For anybody who hasn't been here in a while, we remodeled, the place during this whole thing.
Awesome.
So we redid all the tables. Here's, Les, J.K. Rowling. We love you, LeBron. We miss you, LeBron, but I hope you get another one. So we've redone the tables. We've redone the floors. We're ready for you when COVID stops.
Oh, that turned on.
Oh, you got to get this one here. We got Stone Cold for you. He's ready with nobody to hang out with him. So let's take you down to the brewery. And I don't know how many of you have been down to the brewery or not. So this is in the basement of Twing. This was the most insane space to try to fit because you're trying to get tanks that are 8.5, 9 feet tall underground. And so we enlisted some of Case's finest to kind of help us navigate this. So before we go in, this was literally the catch-all for everything in this building. So anybody who worked in this building, shame on you, first of all. This was the dump space. When you wanted to clear something out and it was too hard to get removed, it would just all end up collecting in this room. So what we tried to, say is we took the worst square footage on campus and made it the most profitable square footage on campus. So here we go. Here's the little brewery that could. If you can imagine, we're not selling any beer right now in-house at all. Nothing's going through the draft system, which is easily where we sell the most beer. And here's all the beer from this week that we've sold through distribution. So to anybody out there in Cleveland, anybody who's going out and having a beer at a bar, tell them that this is what you would like to have on tap. And so we're very excited that we're still able to meet, capacity. I mean, we're not selling any beer through here and we're already at capacity. So when we do green light and things do get back to normal, we will be adding probably another 6 tanks down here, and that will get us pretty close to all we can do. And then beyond that, we're going to be looking for some more space. But here, we'll take you down through it a little bit. And for those that don't brew or anything like that, I understand. I, talk to my wife all the time, and she has no idea what I'm talking about. Kind of give you a little bit of a walkthrough. First of all, we take some grain. We're using pretty much for our base malt. We're using West Branch malts and house malts as our secondary, and then we'll supplement with the stuff that they can't make. but we're trying to use all Ohio malt whenever we can. So we'll take the malt, it's in those big bags, we walked in, and then we'll throw it into the mill and crush it. And then we take it crushed, and we take it over here, and we throw it in, add hot water to it, basically makes a tea on it, and we mash. So this will make our mash for us. Depending on the beer, you'll go a little bit higher, a little bit lower in temp, you know, for sweetness and what other aspects you're trying to drive out of the grain. From there, we'll transfer it over to the boil, and we'll boil it. So to boil it, you know, it's simply just like reducing, you know, a sauce when you're cooking. You're just literally shrinking it, intensifying it, and getting it down to the levels that you want, the gravity that you want. So we'll take it from there, and then we'll pass it through hoses over to a fermenter. So as you can see here, it'll come in here around 68 degrees if it's an ale. If it's a lager, cold beer here, will come in somewhere around 51 degrees on that beer. And then that's where we pitch the yeast. And that's when the yeast starts to eat the sugar. And when the yeast eats sugar, it converts it to alcohol. And the alcohol puts off the gas that blows out into there. So that's the gas, CO2, basically, from the yeast eating the sugar and converting it to alcohol. So basically, what comes in here is sugar water.
So we've got a question from Josh Williams. He'd asked, how big is a batch and how often are you brewing?
We're brewing 3 times a week to keep the tanks full. And these tanks here are 217 gallons. And we're filling them as tight as we can. They have about 25% additional head space, you know, so because, you know, it's got, it'll have like a gas cap of CO2 up there. So you got to give it room to kind of breathe and burp out, or it can start to create some off flavors. But we're literally, I mean, every single batch, we've got it down to just truly to within a gallon or two of what we absolutely have to have. I mean, we're speaking for every drip of beer among, you know, during COVID, which is just, you know, insane that we're doing that. I did not expect that would be the response. And right now, you know, the industry wants 80% cans and 20% draft because, you know, not as many people are going to bars. But even with that being said, you know, with Les's help and you know, our distributors, Six City, and some local partners and friends of ours, it has just been, I mean, we're racing. We're literally racing to get beer, you know, out the door. And yeast is temperamental. It doesn't want to work sometimes, especially when you get to 2 or 3 or 4, you know, revolutions of it. You know, it might not work as fast and as hard as you'd like it to, but you just can't rush it. It's just got to get done, you know, and until it gets done, it's not done. And you can see here, I don't know if you can catch that, but you know, you see the gas being driven off. And this is, my wife hates the name of this beer, but this is called Elfed Up. It's our Christmas beer, and 7% cinnamon, ginger, honey, brown sugar, molasses, and a little bit of Saigon cinnamon and a little bit of clove, very little clove on the end of that one. So this is getting ready. We're hoping to have this one out November 1st as our Christmas beer. But what we're doing is we're teaming 2 beers up side by side for Christmas taps. We're teaming Elfed Up, which is a 7% beer. And then along next to it is our 10% Christmas ale. Still working. 10 days into fermentation. We probably still have 5 or 6 days before it even gets done fermenting. So it's a big beer. So we have Elfed Up over here, and this one is called, which 7%. This is 10%. This one's called Really Elfed Up. So traditionally, that would probably go to you in a 13-ounce glass here. We're responsible at the Jolly Scholar. This one would come to you in a 10-ounce portion. So we try to control how much, you know, alcohol is going into each glass. So even though it says 10% and it's big, we try to give you less of it to make sure that we're keeping you there. Don't tell these kids. So fermentation. So it drives off. We'll let it go. When it's all done fermenting, then we'll raise the temperature just a little bit, which is a diacetyl rest. And it drives off diacetyl and drives off all these off flavors. We'll give it like 2 or 3 days like that, push that out. And then when it's done, we'll move it over to the bright tank. And it literally just does that. It helps brighten the beer. Where these tanks are holding at 68 degrees, this tank will hold around 34 degrees, and it just helps drop everything out of it. It helps clean up the beer, helps scrub everything out, helps, you know, all the particles drop to the bottom of the tank. And then as you can see here, you know, when you go to pull off of it, you know, if all the junk is down here, all the good stuff comes off. And it just what makes for clean beer, you know, bright, easy to see through, and gets all the extra particles, you know, out of the beer. And that is basically, you know, the process from mash to boil to ferment to bright. And then off here, we'll keg it. So we'll keg off here. And then once we're done kegging, this is probably the most, this is how the whole thing happened. As you can see, these tanks are like just jammed to the roof. I mean, there's not an inch to spare, you know. So again, you know, for everybody out there, for any business majors or finance majors, the Jolly Scholar will remain fiscally responsible till the end. I hate loans. I hate borrowing money. It's just not in me to do it. So we had to kind of fit the space. We wanted to maximize it, but we had to fit it. You know, in here, and everybody told us that, oh, you could put smaller tanks in there and you can get them through this window and that window. But again, we go a little bit bigger than probably what we should. And we sign ourselves up for a fair share of problems, but we figure them out. But I cannot remember who it was. I want to say it's Sam Arlia, who runs facilities at Case. And he came up with the idea that we'll show you here in a second, which was to cut a hatch out in an old service tunnel. And this service tunnel, before Tinkham-Veal was here, ran from Twing all the way down to Bellflower. It was like a 300-yard underground tunnel where trucks would pull up to deliver groceries and you know, so on and so forth. When Tinkham-Veal came in, they had to collapse the tunnel because you couldn't build over the top of a tunnel. But they capped it about, you know, you'll see here, about, you know, 25 yards deep. So Sam came up with the idea of, let's cut a hatch in that tunnel, and we could take the tanks and lower them down into that tunnel through the hatch, and then take a pallet jack, you know, have whoever's fabricating these, you know, build a little triangle frame, and we'll put a pallet jack under them and just move them in place. And it sounded so simple, and we had racked our brains for forever. And so we'll show you. Here's what he came up with. Sam Arlia, everybody. Sure.
Frank Beam is asking,
hey.
is CWRU planning to offer a degree in science of fermentation?
Yes. So a degree, we're working on that. Right now, there is a chemistry and fermentation course that is accredited. That's happening right now. I'll dream a little bit with you out loud. So right now, over in Carlton Commons, they've remodeled Carlton Commons to be the temporary dining hall for Fribley, while Fribley's being remodeled. So they're updated. They've already updated the electric. They've already updated the plumbing. They've already updated steam to the building, which are all big, critical things, drains, floor drains, which are all really giant things to a brewery. I mean, without them, you just can't really, you know, do it. You'd have brewers would lose their minds without them. So the hopes and goals, I'll put it all out here. Here's the business plan, is that'll be probably 12 to 16 to 18 months. And if that goes, the hopes is to go back to the university and with less and how much beer we're selling, say, hey, we've met capacity. Why don't we roll this thing over there? There's loading docks and everything else that a brewery needs, and it's such an underutilized building right now. Why don't we put a production brewery over there and then start to grow into this as being a degree, whether it's a 1-year degree, whether so you got engineers or chemists or just somebody who wants a degree in brewing, and offer it as just a 1-year degree and really start to put something together on that level, backboned by a production brewery on campus. So again, I've always stayed aggressive. I always tried to stay forward thinking. The university has been a fantastic partner. I've walked myself into tens of meetings thinking I was going to hear no, and just surprised at how quick we got to yes. So, please keep sending positive emails to him. Dick Jameson especially. He's been a great ally of ours and a great partner of ours, and he put his neck out there for us, and hopefully we've served him well for taking the chance on us. And so that's what we're hoping for, is to maybe look at Carlton Commons in the bottom space underneath the Rough Rider Room, if you're familiar with potentially putting a production brewery. It's perfect for it. It's perfect for it. And accrediting classwork. So here's the tunnel. So a little bit noisier in here. Is basically how many kegs you have. Right now, for a brewery our size, 250 kegs would be a lot of kegs for a brewery our size. We're keeping a cooperage right now of around 1,000 kegs, which is almost unheard of, especially considering that we're not selling anything on campus right now. So how well beer is still selling through, what's in there still to be, we might have 250 to 300 kegs in here.
Sorry about that, everyone. I think we lost the center of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Back now, Katie?
All set. We can hear you and see you.
Sorry about that.
That's the underbelly of the university there. I mean, that was literally condemned space, and the fact that we turned that into a cooler. That was not a cooler. That was just a service tunnel. That again, we put a glycol system outside that just air chills that whole space on a pretty sustainable chain here of just glycol blowing over fans and just chilling literally something that goes 25 or 30 yards deep. Again, that was something that was produced by an engineering student here who came up with the idea, and then we went out there and sourced it to local glycol companies and said, is this feasible? And amazingly, it was. So instead of going and having to put just large sums of dollars into a cooler that big, which is an absolute asset to a brewery our size, it's unheard of to have a cooler that big. Again, just a little bit of creativity and imagination and some mental bandwidth allowed us to do that for a lot cheaper. Again, my kids and my wife, thank you for that one, and for everybody that's done it. You want to try it again? And for what it's worth, right there is the hatch right above us there, where those little beams are, is where the hatch was cut, and that's right outside back between. We had a little lift that would lower it down, and then a pallet jack would bring it through the doors here, and then go put it in place. So it's been just this crazy little, ride. Again, here's a testament to 4 pallets of grain that were stacked probably 7 feet tall, that we're turning through in a week. So I'm just really taken aback by how well we're selling beer right now. And I know it's, largely due to the fact that, we've got great people and great alumni and great allies out there that when they see it, they're so appreciative of it. And they're so generous to kind of drink it, take pictures of it, share it. And, I'm very well aware of the fact that our beer is good, but, we've got good allies and good friends here that are taking care of us and helping us keep it all moving. So thank you very much to everybody that's out there. You want to jog back up?
Yeah, yep.
All right. So that's the brewery piece. We'll show you the rest of this maze.
And if you've got any last minute questions for Matt or Les, we'll go ahead and put those into the chat, and we'll get those answered here to finish up for the night.
All right. Chris, you're going to get your exclusive walk through the kitchen. If you get splattered by milkshake, I'm not apologizing. Who? And here we are, back in present time. So yeah, if you have any questions, fire away. Everything's on the table. Babs, Rosie, Les. So yeah, if you have any questions, fire away. And thank you again. On behalf of Les and I, we really do appreciate you, and thank you for every like and heart and share and everything through social networking and when you see us on tap having beers, we see your posts. We try to comment on everything, but we truly are, pleasantly surprised and taken aback by all the love and support and just the unlikeliness of, how everything found its way through COVID. So before any final questions, I would say, wear your masks. It's real. I think we're all smart enough to know that, and let's make this thing go away and start drinking beer side by side again here soon.
All right, so we've got a few last questions here. We will see if we've got some for Matt and Les. Starting us off, we have Josh Williams had asked, could you tell us, Matt, about your water source and treatment, if any?
Sure. So our water source is just Cleveland municipal water. It goes through water treatment. We've got 4 filters that it passes through. And so once it passes through, then what we do at that point is we take it and we treat it with water salts to try to create the specific water that we're looking for each beer. So for this beer specifically, we want to try to emulate some Munich water, German water, because it's kind of the closest in style. But then what we're doing again with water runoff is we're trying to take that back, as we chill the beer, because you got really hot 212 degree wort that you're boiling before you transfer it to a fermenter, and you got to cool it down. So what we do to cool it down is we use a combination of glycol and cold water, and they basically pass through each other. They wrap around each other. The pipes do, like in a chain. And most breweries, too many breweries, just pass that straight down the drain. And what we do is we take that water that starts off at 33 degrees and it gets warmed up really quick because it's, kind of chained around 212 degree water. and then we have that in a loop that goes back and drops it back in the hot liquor tank. So we recapture that water and we save it. So whereas most breweries, if they're producing for every barrel of beer, which is the equivalent of 2 kegs, they're going to use about 7 barrels of water for every barrel of beer they make. And right now we're using about 3.5. So we're using about half the water of what most breweries or typically what the big breweries are doing. We're able to do that on a very small scale, which we're pretty proud of that.
So next we have a question that came in from Lloyd Wema.
Hey, the Lloyd.
And he asked, will he be bringing back the Jolly Hall of Fame?
Yes, we will. So when we remodeled, we did the tables, the floors, the bar top, the walls, and all the pictures came off the walls. So 2 things about that. One, they were starting to fall off the walls, and 2, they were starting to be selectively removed from the walls. People just taking them, their pictures off the wall, and it starts to, tear stuff, this, that, and the other. So what we're looking to do is I think we're going to designate right by the front doors 2 TV screens that will loop through, and kind of name, year, and just start to create like this legacy chain that way. And funny story about the Lloyd. We've got his pants from his air guitar. There's these zebra printed Zubaz that we've got framed out that we're going to be putting on. That'll be the first thing on the wall when we go. So right underneath the TVs, the Lloyd, we will have your pants on the wall, buddy. So if your dream of having your pants on the wall at Case was a thing, we're going to make it come true. We're going to fully realize it for you. The Lloyd.
And we got another question that came in from Janice Gerda. She said, Matt, do you have any stories or observations about finding old historical features or remnants, like where the old windows used to back up to the kitchen, or anything else when it came to the Excelsior Club dining room? She said ballroom initially, but she said that the drinking of beer has dulled the senses a bit to come up with the right phrase. But she said in the Excelsior Club dining room.
So as far as the Excelsior Club, if that was in this building, and I think became Charlie's Place or what have you, we do have a few things. But notably, what we were able to do is for the first 2 years that we were live, the ballroom, when it went through its remodel and they threw all the hardwood floors into the dumpster, we went dumpster diving and we took all the slats out, not all of them, but a lot of them. And we cut them, and those were our first tap handles until we literally just can't find them anymore. They're everywhere. They're scattered all around Cleveland. So if you ever see a wood tap handle, anywhere around Cleveland with the Jolly Scholar logo on it, that is the Twin Ballroom, floors up there. So, we do want to keep so much of, the old, with the new and bring it, kind of bring it back and not lose its identity too much. We were in need of a little bit of a makeover here after 15 years. But we're always looking for those, those opportunities to kind of keep, the past and bring it into the present and educate the students on where we're at right now. But I'm not, in full disclosure, I'm not 100% up to speed on the Excelsior Club. Like Charlie's Place, I know exactly, kind of what we've done since then, but the Excelsior Club, I'm not completely familiar with.
Matt, so the next question came in from Ron Laybach, and he'd asked, how do you decide which types of beer to brew? And then a follow-up, Mabel Zhuang had asked, Matt, what's your best-selling beer right now?
So the latter first, the best-selling beer is cold beer here. Even in-house, it's our best seller. It's like an everyday crushable lager. You get 16 ounces of it. It's $1 less than what the other beers are. So naturally, people, gravitate towards that. But the interesting piece is completely on the opposite end of the spectrum. Once you get out of cold beer here, anything hoppy and IPA is the show stealer. So on our 24 taps, I would bet at all times we have 10 versions of IPAs, from a pale to a session to a West Coast style. And then right now, for everybody who's out there, these hazy IPAs are all the rage. And we've been able to, there's a little list that's going around town of like the top 10 hazy IPAs in Cleveland or Northeast Ohio. And we've got 3 of the 10 beers on that list. So I think we're hitting on all those levels. And then what's amazing to me is that students today, especially, when I was, their age, I wasn't, Newcastle beer was a big deal. Killian's was a big deal, at the time, because it was just something different than what the macros were making. But I couldn't have imagined drinking a really hoppy beer. I remember the first time I had like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, and I was really I really loved it. I really enjoyed it. But, I had other friends who were just wiped out by it. They just couldn't believe that beer was even something on the shelf. And, you're talking about a beer at the time that was like, 35 IBUs in bitterness, which by today's standards would just, would get pushed to the side. But now, a lot of these students here recently, have grown up with the Food Network in the background at the house. Mom and dad are really pretty talented in the kitchen. So their awareness to ingredients and trends and all those things are definitely more elevated than when I was a college student. So the fact that you're seeing 21-year-olds drinking, 76 IBU West Coast IPAs that are just dank and piney and resinous and just bitter to the back of your neck, it blows me away. So beer has come a long way, similar to wine. They're 21-year-olds, 22, 23, 25, they're aware. They're up on it. Before, when I was a college student, like I said, it was all suitcase beer. How many can we get for the least amount of money? And now the fact that, and it was always the focus was, we didn't want this to be a punch palace. We wanted it to be a place where real conversation could happen. People could sit down next to each other, enjoy something really nice and high quality, and then maybe something could come out of it. And what's come from that, some marriages that I hope are successful, some marriages that I know haven't been successful, but there's been some really cool business ideas that have merged. There's been some really cool, I don't love the word, but synergy that's come from sitting down, having a nice beer and a real conversation, even on a Friday night when most college students are raging or trying to go to the next level. I think with our approach to beer has allowed students to be comfortable in how they approach bars. And I think it's been, a really great relationship, and we've seen some really cool things come from it.
So I think as we're kind of winding down on time here, guys, I think the last question I'll ask to pose to both of you, and Les, I can start with you. What is the first craft beer that you had? And do you still enjoy that beer, or is your palate changed a little bit?
The first crap I had was Duck Munger Gold, which I'm still coming for you, Duck Munger. I'm coming for you, baby. 5 years. And now I like my beer. Right here, baby.
Perfect.
And then for me, like I said, I can remember I had a best friend who was my soccer coach. I'm sorry, my best friend, his dad was our soccer coach. And I can remember at 18, and it was not not something I would suggest after a game, said, hey, you want a beer? And it was a Hockershore. So it was a German beer, and it was just really true to the style. And, at first, I didn't really love it. I passed on it. Maybe I had a beer or two before then. My parents are listening. Maybe I didn't. But after that, it was just, suitcase beers, just cheap stuff, whatever's cheap. The first thing that really, and it wasn't necessarily craft at the time, but the first beer that I really was Killian's Red in a keg, ice cold, everything that's, not perfect about beer, but it really turned me on to the fact that there was something else out there. And then that's when I started, with like the Mr. Beer kit, and made some of the world's worst beer. And I'm sure we didn't let it ferment all the way. I'm sure it was like 2.6%, and just, I mean, throw the instructions out. We're going to do it live. And we did, and it was terrible. But the first beer for me that really changed it, it's in my refrigerator anytime you come to my house still, is Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. It is just legendary. Don't change a thing. They put the recipe out. I homebrewed it. It's dead on. I mean, they gave it all away and said, here it is, do it if you want. I refuse to make that beer here. I refuse to make it as a home brewer at the house. I will forever just buy that beer. And I will forever, just hold a Sierra Nevada in high regard. But that beer is just, it is, in my opinion, one of the top 5 beers to ever be made. And it will go on forever as long as people are sensible. That beer is quintessential.
Well, Matt, thank you. Les, thank you
you.
very much. So glad you guys could both join us. For those of you who joined us this evening, thank you so much. We really hope you enjoyed yourselves. Please enjoy the rest of the weekend. There's still some more festivities going on for homecoming, virtual homecoming 2020 tomorrow. So if you've not signed up for things tomorrow, go to case.edu/homecoming. There's still some additional events you can join. Lots of great things. Again, Matt, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Les, thank you as well.
No, thank you.
John, thank you so much. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Go Browns.
Go Browns.